Hey, welcome back to another episode of the YouSchool podcast. I'm Scott Schimmel. I'm your host. Chief Guide is my official title at the YouSchool. And today, what we're going to talk about is when bad things happen to good parents. And I'm sure I'm not alone. In the past few days, as a parent, bad things have happened in your home, in your family. And when I say bad things, I mean a conflict, a fight, a kid that forgot their homework, a kid that showed up late after curfew. For us, we had one of our kids not get accepted to something at school that they really wanted to get into. So bad things happen. Things get triggered. You hear one of your kids say a bad word to the other kid. You see that they ate salami on the couch again and there's grease all over the arm. Whatever. I mean, within the last 24 hours, many bad things have happened. So what we're talking about in this episode is what we call broadly the parent challenge. We get into these challenging situations with our kids, and you might maybe in other circles, you might call it like discipline, and that might be how you search for it on Google, like how to discipline my teenager when they talk back to me. But parent challenges are, in our world, in the YouSchool world, bigger than that. It's beyond just discipline issues. Some of them require discipline, but I got a kid who didn't make the squad and she feels crushed. That's not discipline. That is how to navigate this challenging situation in this moment. It's when your kid doesn't get invited to a party, when you find out your kid's being a jerk to their friends, or they're being picked on by their friends. You're at a game watching your kid play, and they're on the bench the entire time. That's kind of, what do you do with that? It's these kinds of situations. And what happens first, that's what this episode's about. Bad things happening to good parents. We call it disorientation. Disorientation. It's kind of a nice, benign way to say when crap hits the fan. When you all of a sudden are in it, you're feeling it. You're in an instant, in a second. Maybe it's a slam door, or a scream from another room, or a text message that comes through, or an email that you find from the teacher. Why haven't they turned in the last 4 homework assignments? Disorientation. In other words, you all of a sudden can't think clearly. All of a sudden you're having a big emotional reaction. Am I alone here? I don't think so. And what happens, what we can kind of pull apart, are 3 things in this disorientation. Number 1, you're having a physical response. A physical response. Your brain has just gone to the fight or flight mode. Your brain, because of this stress, because of this fear, because of this potential threat, your well-intentioned, well-designed brain has turned off the thinking parts and turned on the part that helps you fight it out, run away from the problem, or absolutely just might get paralyzed. So something physically has happened to you. Secondly, emotional. You have had an emotional trigger, and likely it has layers. Likely you're not quite able to understand it at first, but in an instant, a split second, you're having an emotional reaction. Third, you're likely having an historical reaction as well. What I mean is, whatever's happening in this current moment, this current challenge, is bringing up for you layers and years and perhaps decades, maybe even generations of history, all in the moment. The kid that doesn't make the squad reminds you implicitly, because it's baked into your memory, of the time you didn't make the squad and how hard that was for you, and how lonely and rejected you felt during your sophomore year in high school. And all of a sudden, that is blaring into your emotional and physical responses. And you're no longer trying to help your kid deal with their grief or their sense of loss or their own disorientation. You are now in it. That 15-year-old inside of you, who never really got over it, is now putting up their dukes and fighting the way you wish you could have fought back then. I mean, it's kind of intense. It's kind of insane what happens in a parent challenge when you're disoriented. Now, here's the specific tool and tip that I want to share with you. And it's this phrase that comes from Dan Siegel, who's a UCLA researcher, psychotherapist, author. He's written a ton of books on parenting. He's a guy that I've learned a tremendous amount. Books, he's on tons of podcasts, YouTube videos, and he's got these phrases. And one of the core phrases and techniques that he teaches is this: name it to tame it. And it's actually fascinating. I'm going to show on the screen if you're watching. He is citing research where people have been put under what's called the functional MRI machine. So we're able to watch and see what happens to their brains in real time while they're awake. And there's research that when you put feelings into words, that's the kind of the title of this research article. When you put feelings into words, it triggers and turns back on the part of your brain that was been flipped off when you were triggered, when you went into disorientation, when you actually take the time to process and name, I'm feeling, and it's probably multiple things. I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling out of control. I'm feeling anxious. There's a part of me that feels sad. There's also a part of me that feels angry. When you actually go through the process of naming what is happening to you emotionally, the part of your brain that you need to think clearly, to connect the dots, to solve problems, to be present with your kid comes back online. Now, there's lots of other things to do physically. There's breathing techniques. There's getting exercise to work out some of that excess energy, that overactivated energy. Also very helpful, but this is a very, very simple way for you as a parent in the moment when you find yourself disoriented, which is key to notice that you're disoriented, to take a step back, take a few minutes. And this might come for you. This might come through grabbing a pen and paper and a journal. This might come from you taking a walk with the dog. You might need to call a friend if you're more of an external processor and just talk out loud and not just like kind of process and complain. And then this happened and she said this, but to the point of, I just need to find words to my feelings, to my emotions. Because what happens then is that we're able to be present again with our kids. So when bad things happen, when you get to the disoriented moment, I know you're a good parent because you're listening to this, watching this. Your opportunity is to name it, to tame it. And if you can do that and your brain can come back online, you can start thinking clearly again and start putting things in their proper place. You can fully be present for your kid. Oh, and by the way, you're going to be modeling for them an essential life, critical life skill for them because they're going to be disoriented any second. They already are. So that's it. Quick episode. Name it to tame it. You're not a bad parent. You just got disoriented for a minute and it's time to come back to your senses. Hey, thanks for joining in on the YouSchool podcast. We'd love to share with you the resources available on our website at theyouschool.com. Not just articles, ebooks, worksheets, and other podcast episodes, but specifically, you should know about a free course we have available called the Real Me course. It's digital, it's interactive, and it'll guide you to get clearer about who you are and the great story you could tell with your life. So go register for a free account and get started on the Real Me course today at theyouschool.com. That's theyouschool.com.